We shall commence this module by discussing the demand theory. Demand for goods and services, economists essentially mean, is willingness as well as the ability of the consumer in procuring and consuming the goods and services. Thus, demand for a commodity or service is dependent upon its power to satisfy want or desire, capability of the potential consumer to pay for the good or services. Demand is one of the most significant decision-making variables in present globalized, liberalized and privatized economy. Under this sort of an economy, consumers and producers have wide choices. There is full freedom to both, that is, buyers and sellers in the market. Therefore, demand reflects the size and the pattern of the market. The future of the producer is dependent upon the well-analyzed consumer's demand. Even the firm does not want to make profit as such, but want to devote for customer services or social responsibilities. That is also not possible without evaluating the consumer's taste, preferences, choices, etc. All these things are directly built into the economic concept of demand. The survival and the growth of any business enterprise depends upon the appropriate analysis of demand for its product in the market. Demand analysis has thoughtful significance to the management for day-to-day functioning and expansion of the business. Thus, the short-term and the long-term management decisions are dependent upon the trends in demand for the product. Any rise or fall in the demand for the product has to be find out reasons and revised production plans, technology or the change in advertisement, packaging, quality, etc. The market system works in an orderly manner because it is governed by certain fundamental laws of market known as the law of demand and supply. The demand and supply forces determine the prices of goods and services in the market. The law of demand and supply plays very important role in the economic analysis. Thomas Carlyle, the famous 19th century historian, remarked, "It is easy to make parrot learning in economics. Teach a parrot to say demand and supply." The most important function of microeconomics is to explain the laws of demand and supply, market mechanism and working of the price system. Here, we will discuss the concept of demand and demand analysis. Law of demand states that whenever the price of a product increases, then the demand for that product decreases and vice versa, provided other things remains constant. Here these other things are income of the individual, price of the related goods, taste and preferences, population, advertisements, etc. While studying the law of demand, the direct relationship between price and the demand is studied. This is because under the economic theory, price of a product is considered as the main determinant of demand in the short run period.
After studying this module, you shall be able to know the concept of demand theory, know the pragmatic approach to demand analysis, know the concept of constant elasticity of demand function, know the stock adjustment principle, know the stone analysis of demand and the linear expenditure system. There are several economists who question the worth of various theories of consumer behavior. Many economists have understood that the various approaches to utility are theoretically impressive, but it is very difficult for the economist to relate this theoretic approach to elucidate the intricacy of the real world. Thus, in order to keep away from this problem, many economists has used the pragmatic or practical approach to the theory of demand. The economists have acknowledged the law of demand, which states that there exists a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. It implies that as prices rises, quantity demanded decreases and vice versa. Individual demand function shows the functional relationship between the demand for a commodity by an individual and its determinants. These determinants are the price of good, the prices of related goods, the consumer's income, the consumer's taste and preference, the environmental factors, and the expectations. Individual demand function is represented as QDX is equals to F bracket PX, comma PR, comma Y, comma T, comma S, comma E, where PX is the price of goods, PR stands for the price of related goods, Y is consumer's income, T is equals to consumer's taste and preferences, S are the environmental factors, and E represents expectations. The term QDX stands for the quantity that consumer demands of good X. It is determined by many factors, that is, a multivariate relationship. Demand function, being a multivariate function, is estimated using the econometric methods. Such demand functions shows the market behavior of the consumers, that is, it is the behavior of all consumers as a group and not the behavior of single individual. In most cases, the demand function refers to a group of commodities, that is, demand for food, demand for consumer durables, demand for commodity, etc. Economists face serious difficulties while estimating the demand functions. The aggregation of individual demand makes the use of index numbers inevitable. The problems with the usage of index numbers are numerous. Beside this, there are several estimation problems which impair the reliability of the demand functions estimated statistically. One of the major difficulties arises when all the determinants of demand changes simultaneously, making it extremely difficult to assess the influence of each factor separately. There has been continuous improvement in econometrics technique, and demand functions are easily estimated using these techniques. Next, we move on to study the constant elasticity demand function. The constant elasticity demand functions are the functions that are widely used in applied research and have constant elasticity. It can be written in functional form as Qx is equals to A into Px to the power B into PR to the power C into Y to the power D into E to the power Ft, where Qx is the quantity demanded of commodity X, Px is the price of commodity X, PR is the price of other related commodities, EFT is a trend factor for taste where E is the natural logarithms. Y is the aggregate consumer income, B is the price elasticity of demand, C is the cross price elasticity of demand, D is the income elasticity of demand. This demand function is known as constant elasticity of demand function because in this functional form the coefficients B, C and D are the price, cross and income elasticity of demand, which are assumed to remain constant. Let us prove that elasticity of demand remains unchanged under constant elasticity of demand function. Proof. Let us first prove that B is the price elasticity of demand which remains constant. In order to prove this, first express the above functional form in logarithm form and then partially differentiate the function. Qx is equals to a into px to the power b into pr to the power c into y to the power d into e to the power ft. Taking logarithm both sides, we obtain log qx is equals to log a plus b into log px plus c into log pr plus d into log y. For simplicity, we are ignoring the term trend. In order to calculate elasticity of demand, let us partially differentiate the function with respect to px. We obtain delta log qx divided by delta log px is equals to b. This is given as equation 1. We know from the basic property of logarithm that the change of the logarithm of a variable is equals to the proportionate change of the variable. Let us apply this above property to the partial derivative of function with respect to the price of commodity x. We obtain delta log qx is equals to delta qx divided by qx and delta log px is equals to delta px divided by px. This is given as equation 2. By substituting equation 2 in equation 1, we get delta qx by qx divided by delta px by px is equals to b, or this can be written as qx is equals to b into px to the power b by p into pr to the power c by p into y to the power d by p, where p is the general price level. Here, it is obvious that if prices and income are changing by same proportion, say by t%, this change in income and price will not affect the quantity demanded, as t will appear in both numerator and denominator of the real income and relative price and thus cancel out. There is no change in quantity demanded. It implies that there is no money illusion in the consumer behavior. Further, we learn the distributed lag models of demand, dynamic version of demand functions. The dynamic version of demand function is shown with distributed lag models of demand. A current development in demand theory is the expression of demand function in dynamic form. The reason behind inclusion of lagged variable is that current purchasing decisions are influenced by past behavior of individuals. Dynamic demand functions include lagged values of income and quantity demanded as a separate variable influencing the demand in any particular period. In order to express the demand function in dynamic form, we must assume a particular relation between the past and the present. One of the most vital relationships is that current purchasing behavior depends upon past level of demand and past level of income. We can classify this as demand for durable goods and non-durable goods. If the commodity is durable, then past purchases represent the stock of this commodity, which clearly affects the current and future purchases of the product. On the other hand, if the commodity is non-durable, then past purchases represent the habit of the consumer, which is acquired by purchasing and consuming the commodity in the past. The demand functions which include lagged values of demand or of income are called distributed lagged models. The distributed lagged function can be expressed as Qx t is equals to f bracket px t comma px t minus 1 comma and so on comma qx t minus 1 comma qx t minus 2 comma and so on comma y t comma y t minus 1 and so on bracket close. Here, the quantity demanded of good X depends not only on the current period price and income, but also past level of demand and prices. Next, we discuss Nerlove's stock adjustment principle. Nerlove have developed a model which is based on stock adjustment principle. It is also known as partial adjustment model. The partial adjustment model with constant speed of adjustment was suggested by Nerlove to justify the specification of distributed lags in his work on demand analysis for agriculture and other commodities. This model is used extensively in demand functions as well as investment functions. This model is based on some behavioral assumptions. First, there exists a desired level of capital stock which an entrepreneur requires to have smooth production process. Second, the desired level of capital stock is determined by the variables that are controlling the output such as price and cost. And third, the model of desired capital stock cannot be estimated because it is unobservable. The demand function when the Nerlove stock adjustment model is applied to consumer durables can be written in the form Qt is equals to A into Yt plus B into Qt minus 1. Derivation of model. There is a desired level of durable goods which is given as Qt star. This desired level of durable good is determined by the current level of income. This can be written as Qt star is equals to C into Yt. This is given as equation 1. It is very difficult for the consumer to acquire the desired level of durables immediately due to the limited income, limited credits, etc. Thus, the consumers acquire only a part of the desired level in each period. The acquisition of the desired level of durables by the consumers is gradual. So, in each period, we come closer to Qt star. In each period, the consumer purchases a certain quantity Qt. The quantity that is purchased by the consumer in the previous period is denoted by Qt minus 1. The actual change in the quantity from the previous period is the difference Qt minus Qt minus 1. This change in actual purchases is only a fraction k of the desired change Qt star minus Qt minus 1. Thus, actual change is a fraction of desired change that can be written as actual change is equals to k into desired change. That is, Qt minus 1 is equals to k into Qt star minus Qt minus 1. This is given as equation 2, where k is the coefficient of stock adjustment. This is the expression of stock adjustment. The value of coefficient of stock adjustment lies between 0 and 1. Let us substitute equation 1 in stock adjustment expression. We obtain Qt minus 1 is equals to k into C into YT minus QT minus 1. Rearranging the terms, we will get QT is equals to Kc into Yt plus 1 minus K into Qt minus 1. Now assume Kc is equals to A and 1 minus K is equals to B. We obtain the stock adjustment in its final form as Qt is equals to A into Yt plus B into Qt minus 1. We now learn about the Houthakkar and Taylor dynamic model. The model of Houthakkar and Taylor are based on Nerlove's formula. They have extended the analysis of stock adjustment to the non-durable good. The current demand for durable goods depends on the stock of such commodities. On the other hand, the current demand for non-durable goods depend upon the purchases of the commodities in the past. This is so because if the commodity is non-durable, then past purchases represent the habit of the consumer which is acquired by purchasing and consuming the commodity in the past. Thus, this clearly affects the current and future purchases of the product. This would lead to the habit formation process. The demand function in case of non-durable good can be written as Qt is equals to A plus B into PT plus C into change into PT plus D into YT plus E into change in YT plus F into Qt minus 1, where Q is the quantity demanded in period T, PT is the price in period T, change in PT is the change in price between period T and T minus 1, YT is the income in period T, change in YT is the change in income between period T and T minus 1. The demand function can be derived in the following steps. Let us proceed with demand for a product in a particular period. Demand for a product in a particular period depends upon three factors: price of a product, stock of the commodity, and on the current level of income. This can be expressed as Qt is equals to G plus H into PT plus I into ST plus J into YT, where Qt is the demand for the product in period T, PT is the price in period T, YT is the income in period T, ST is the stock of durable if the demand function refers to durable goods, ST is the stock of non-durable if the demand function refers to non-durable goods. The stock S cannot be measured. This is because of two reasons. First, the stock of durable goods is composed of various heterogeneous items. They may be of various ages. Second, the stock of non-durables, that is the stock of habits, is a psychological variables and cannot be quantified. Let us now study the last topic of this module, which is linear expenditure system. Linear expenditure system is a model which deals with groups of commodities rather than the individual commodities. Addition of all such groups yield total consumer expenditure. Linear expenditure system is widely used in aggregate econometric models where they provide disaggregation of the consumption function as desired. The demand function under this model is derived by maximizing the utility function subject to a budget constraint. The approach of this model is same like approach of indifference curve. Indifference curve approach is basically used for handling the commodities which are substitutes. On the other hand, linear expenditure system is applied to the group of commodities between which substitution is not possible. The utility function is additive, showing that The total utility is the sum of utilities derived from the various groups of commodities. Additively implies that the utilities of various groups are independent.
Let us now summarize what we have studied in this module. Demand is one of the major decisions-making variable in present globalized, liberalized and privatized economy. Under this sort of an economy, consumers and producers have broad choices. There is full freedom to both, that is, buyers and sellers in the market. Therefore, demand reflects the size and the pattern of the market. Law of demand states that whenever the price of a product increases, then the demand for the same will decrease, and vice versa, provided other things remains constant. The law of diminishing marginal utility states that the marginal utility or the extra utility obtained from consuming a good decreases as the quantity consumed increases. An advanced form of consumer demand theory involves the analysis of indifference curves. A consumer is indifferent between consuming any combinations of two goods at any point on the curve. Indifference curve analysis relies on a relative ranking of preferences between two goods rather than absolute measurement of utility derived from the consumption of a particular good. Revealed preference theory, pioneered by economist Paul Samuelson, is a method of analyzing the choices made by individuals, mostly used for comparing the influence of policies on consumer behavior. The models presuppose that the preferences of consumers can be discovered by their purchasing habits. Revealed preference theory came about because existing theories of consumer demand were based on a diminishing marginal rate of substitution, which is also known as MRS. The dynamic version of demand function is shown with the distributed lag model of demand. A recent development in demand theory is the expression of demand function in the dynamic form. The reason behind the inclusion of lagged variable is that current purchasing decisions are influenced by the past behavior of individuals. Nerlove have developed a model which is based on the stock adjustment principle. It is also known as the partial adjustment model. The partial adjustment model with constant speed of adjustment was suggested by Nerlove to justify the specification of the distributed lags in his work on the demand analysis for agriculture and other commodities. This model is used extensively in demand functions as well as investment functions. The model of Houthakkar and Taylor are based on Nerlove's formula. They have extended the analysis of stock adjustment to non-durable good. The current demand for durable good depends on the stock of such commodities. Linear expenditure system is a model which deals with the groups of commodities rather than the individual commodity. Addition of all such groups yield total consumer expenditure. Linear expenditure system is extensively used in aggregate econometric models where they provide disaggregation of the consumption function as desirable.